A very good day and big to Dr. Noraza and to those who are watching this presentation video. Today we, from Group Lawcapella, will be presenting on the effect of marriage on status and property for Muslims. Before we begin, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ramanathan Ashwin and I'll be giving a brief introduction about this topic. Before we explain further on the effect of marriage on status and property under Malaysian law, let's have a brief understanding about the effect of marriage under common law. Under common law, after marriage, a husband and wife are regarded as one entity. In this situation, the wife is under the husband's protection and her legal existence is suspended. Also, the wife's name, title to her properties and heritage is incorporated into the legal existence of her husband. Apart from that, a husband is also liable for his wife's wrongdoings. This is because, under common law, an action cannot be brought against the wife alone without mentioning the husband's name as a defendant. However, bear in mind that this requirement is only applicable for tort offences and not criminal offences. For criminal offences, a wife alone can be liable. In addition, a wife is also not allowed to sue a third party in her own name. But something important here is that all the situations that were explained before were not applicable after the enforcement of the Law Reform Act 1962 in England. After this act was introduced, the principle where a husband and wife are regarded as one entity was not referred to. Now, I would like to pass it on to Sophia to give a clear explanation about the effect of marriage on status and property in accordance with the Malaysian law.
My name is Sophia, and next I'm going to explain about the effects of marriage on property for Muslims. The laws and regulation for this part will be based on Married Women Act 1975. Section 3 states that this act applies to all married women and their property, rights and obligations subject to the Islamic law and the customs of the Malays. Section 4 of the Married Women Act 1975 mentioned about the capacity of married women. A married woman is A. Capable of having or disposing her own property, B. Rendering herself or being rendered liable for any tort, contract, debt or obligation, sue or being sued in her name, C. Entitled to all remedies for all purposes, and D. Is subject to the law relating to bankruptcy and to the enforcement of judgment and orders. Section 4, subsection A allows husband and wife to sue each other for damages in tort for injuries to his or her person. Next, Section 5 of the Married Women Act mentioned about the property of married women. States that all property which A. immediately before the commencement of this act was the separate property of a married woman or held for her separate use in equity, B. belongs at the time of her marriage to a woman married after such commencement, C. after such commencement is acquired by or devolves upon a married woman, shall belong to her as if she were unmarried and may be disposed of accordingly. If the property belonged to a married woman or property held for separate use in equity, that property shall belongs to her as if she were a free soul and may be disposed of accordingly. Next, Section 8 of Married Women Act explains about the gifts by husband to wife. Nothing in this act shall give validity as against creditors of the husband to any gift by a husband to his wife of any property which after such gift continues to be in the order and disposition or reputed ownership of the husband, or to any deposit or other investment of monies of the husband made by in the name of his wife in front of his creditors, but any money so deposited and invested may be followed as if they will belong to the husband. Property is transferred by the husband to the wife, which after that continues to be in the disposition of husband, or investment of money made by the husband in the name of his wife in front of his creditor shall be deemed invalid as against the creditor. Next, Section 9, Subsection 1 explains about the remedies for protection and security of separate property. Every woman shall have in her own name against her husband the same remedies and redress for the protection and security of her property as if such property belonged to her as a firm soul, which means married women can sue in their own name for the protection of their property as if such property belonged to her as firm soul or as unmarried women. That they can have protection and redress over their property against their own husband. And lastly, Section 9, Subsection 2 also explains about the remedies for protection and security of separate property. States that a husband or a wife shall be entitled to sue each other in tort for the protection or security of his or her property as the case may be, meaning that spouse may sue each other for tort resulting from the protection of their own property.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. I am Nur Syafiqah binti Muhammad Fazullah. Now I'm going to explain about a case which may help you to understand better about the effect of marriage on property. The case that I would like to share with all of you is Muhammad Habibullah Mahmud versus Faridah Datuk Talib. First, let me explain about the facts of the case. The plaintiff and defendant are Muslims. They were married on 5 August 1965 and on 3rd of March 1989, the plaintiff, which is the wife, petitioned for divorce in the Sharia Court of Kuala Lumpur. The plaintiff alleged that during the course of her marriage, she was battered by her husband on numerous occasions and subsequently, she filed a suit in the High Court at Kuala Lumpur against her husband, claiming for damages and injunction to restrain the defendant from assaulting, harassing or molesting her and members of her family. The plaintiff wanted to sue the defendant under Section 9, Subsection 2 of Married Women Act. However, the government decided to replace Section 9, Subsection 2 with Section 4A of Married Women Act. The court refused the legal action brought by the plaintiff, which is Section 9, Subsection 2 of Married Women Act, which claimed that husband or a wife shall be entitled to sue each other in tort for the protection or security of his or her property, as the case may be. This is because since both plaintiff and defendant are husband and wife, and such tort is under the scope of protect her property, respondent then cannot bring an action against her husband. Due to both parties are Muslim, only Sharia court has the jurisdiction on this matter. This leads to Section 4A being added in Married Women Act that can be protect a woman body. Section 4A of Married Women Act stated that husband and a wife shall be entitled to sue each other in tort for damages in respect of injuries to his or her person, as the case may be, in the like manner as any other two separate individuals.
The effect of marriage on personal status of Muslim married women is governed by Married Women Act 1957. According to Section 3 of the said Act, provides for the application of the Married Women Act to Muslim and to be subjected to Islamic law, whereby states in West Malaysia that the Married Women Act applies to all married women and their property, rights and obligations subject to the Islamic law and the custom of Malay, meaning to say that the application of MWA toward Muslim marriage is only as far as the Islamic law such as Islamic Family Law Acts permit. Besides, for the mistreatment of the husband toward his wife, it is provided under Section 127 of the Islamic Family Law Act that if the husband mistreat his wife or cheat on her on her property, commits an offence and shall be punished with a fine not exceeding 1,000 ringgit or with imprisonment or with imprisonment not exceeding 6 months or both. If the husband has committed assault or battery or constitute a matrimonial offense or swindled his wife's possession, he can be punished and with a fine amounting to 1,000 or imprisonment not exceeding 6 months or both by default. Apart from that, Section 128 of Islamic family law stated that the failure to give proper justice to wife. These provisions allow a woman to enforce their right based on the judgment of a Sharia court in any state, thereby making it relatively more difficult for husband to avoid their court-ordered obligations in terms of maintenance or any related. In addition, the Sharia court evidence Sharia criminal procedures and Sharia court civil procedures, which are uniform and applicable in different states or have standardized the procedures in the Sharia court. Furthermore, the Malaysian government reinforced that its legitimate concerns on specific paragraph of Article 16 of Convention of the Elimination of Form of Discrimination Against Women (CEDAW) must be maintained because the interpretation of the principle of equality as expounded in Article 16 must be considered within the realm of Sharia, which guarantees complementary rights and responsibilities between spouses in order to preserve the sacred bond of matrimony. Last but not least, for a wife who disobeys her husband, the Statute of Islamic Family Law Act provides Section 129 which penalizes a wife who willfully disobeys an order of her husband. On the other hand, there was no corresponding enhancement in the right of women, thus placing a woman in a more vulnerable position than in the past. For instance, despite the increase in the financial rights of men as a result of amendment that were made to Islamic Family Law Act, a woman's right to maintenance remains restrictive in that she must obey her husband or risk losing her financial maintenance.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. I am Hanani and I will explain about the case of Rekatuna Bibi. So in this case of Rekatuna Bibi, the wife have committed the breach of trust of the husband's property. So the court held that while the husband or wife living together, they may undertake against the other for fraud, cheating and theft of his or her property. So Married Women Act does not apply here, as under the Islamic law, criminal action can be taken against the other spouse. So this case showing that Section 9 subsection 4 does not apply to the Muslims, as it provides resolution related to the criminal proceeding between husband and wife. In two situations, first, it was prohibited which husband and wife living together or they in a situation where living apart by the act of complaint of causing property while living together. And the last situation, which the husband and wife living or distinct one another, could be taken to the proceeding.
In short, with reference to the Married Women Act 1957 and the Islamic Family Law Act 1984, a husband and wife are not seen as one person and they both have independent legal rights over their status and property. The effects of marriage on property for Muslims was explained based on the provisions under the Married Women Act 1957. The discussion touched on the rights of both spouses over their property, particularly the wife, and the remedies provided for the security and protection of their property. However, the applicability of the Married Women Act 1957 with regards to the effect of marriage on property for Muslims is subject to the Islamic Family Law Act. As for the effect of marriage on status, the discussion was based on the provisions from the Islamic Family Law Act. It is clear that if the rights of one spouse is violated by the other, the guilty party shall be liable. As a group, our opinion is that the laws and principles regulating this matter are adequate. This is because, in the current world, women in general are capable of being independent and have rights and minds of their own. It is not required for the husband to have disciplinary rights over their wives. It would not be suitable to follow the position of the common law prior to the enforcement of the Law Reform Act 1962 in England. Generally speaking, a husband should not be liable for his wife's wrongdoings. Also, both husband and wife should have equal opportunity to take civil actions against one another for any wrongdoings, as the basic principle of law is to provide a just outcome at any circumstances. With that being said, we have reached the end of our presentation. That is all from us. Thank you and have a good day.